The first of its kind Wolves USA meetup is rapidly approaching. Join official Wolves USA supporters groups in Houston on the weekend of October 1st for TexFest 2022. It'll be a jam-packed weekend of fun for all ages, centered around the match against West Ham on Saturday at 11:30 a.m. Central. To register for the event and to view the entire weekend itinerary, visit HoustonWolves.com or simply check out the link on the show Twitter page at WLWPod or on Facebook at Whole Lotta Wolves. Come join the pack in Houston.
Welcome to Whole Lotta Wolves, episode 7 of season 3. We're your hosts. I'm Joshua Buckley.
And I'm Paul LePage.
And much like Wolves were in the season opening, Paul, we're on a short squad this week. It's just me and you.
That's right. Let's mess it up.
Yeah, I'm sure it's going to happen. Luckily, we still have Alex Patakis from New York, who is going to edit this after the fact. But so no game last week. Condolences to the royal family. Paul, what were your thoughts? I mean, coming from England, what were your thoughts when you heard the Queen had passed away?
For me, it's generational, and crikey, it's unprecedented, obviously, and we're never going to have anything like it. I don't think, again, in terms of a monarch of her age taking the throne, and then 70 years later, and 30% of the time of America's whole life of the country, the Queen sat on the throne. So she put a good innings in, that's for sure. So there's sadness and everything, but we go on.
Were you surprised that all of the games on every level were canceled in England over the weekend?
Yeah, to be honest, more in a reflection that other sports took the lead and carried on. So for me, I'm a big cricket fan, so I could fully understand the immediate day after of the England cricket game being postponed based on that. But then that just showed you on the Saturday what the outpouring would have been had football carried on as planned. And that was the real letdown for me, because it extends it a little when it comes around to this next set of games. Would it have had the deep and meaningful impact that it would have done immediately a few days after it happened? So I wasn't wholly bought into to the cancellation at all. I could see why it was done, but really, I think it wouldn't have mattered, and fans would have probably given the utmost respect and been more passionate towards it, being in the immediate wake of.
Now, one of the big rumors was one of the reasons they did cancel. They were worried that some fan bases would boo during remembering of the Queen. And one of those fan bases that was mentioned a lot was Liverpool. Can you explain this to me as an American, what the deal is with the Queen and Liverpool fans?
No, I wanted this to be quite a short episode, and if I went into that, it might be a multi-part series. So there's a ton that just in any walk of life, and not necessarily related to sport in the UK. There's always a monarchy versus no monarchy, no monarchy, drain on resources, blah blah blah, taxpayer funded, and all of that. I'm really not sure where the Liverpool part comes into it, in that is there some politics in there, potentially? Is there some religious aspects even, potentially that as well? Liverpool in particular as a club always have that Scouts first, everything else second in terms of their outlook and their identity. So would have that factored into it? Possibly, but even with all of that, I would have been genuinely surprised if a minute's silence would have got disrupted. Genuinely, I don't think it would have happened, even with that minutest of minorities in clubs that may have had a reputation for that. I wouldn't have thought it would have happened personally. But did the Premier League want to protect its brand asset in that they wanted to avoid any risk of possibly that going out and being broadcast across the world, and putting one of their big Sky sticks under a negative spotlight, and all of a sudden they're in the headlines for the wrong reason? So did that factor into it? Possibly, but I think it was, I don't think they would have run into any major issues personally.
Yeah, I asked that question on Twitter, and King Wolf 84 gave me a kind of brief answer. Basically, Margaret Thatcher, who was prime minister during the 80s, oversaw an economic depression in places like Liverpool, is what he said. And then the state cover up of the Hillsborough, which was supported by one of the newspapers. So he mentioned those as two reasons why. I thought that was interesting. And it makes me think on the US side. Number one, if a sitting president or Biden to pass away on a Thursday like the Queen, I thought, would sporting events, specifically football on the weekend, be postponed? And I was like, I don't think so. Maybe if he was assassinated, that might be different. And obviously in 9/11, they canceled the games that weekend, but that was also a little bit more because there were security risks as well. I remember going to games to a football, an NFL game, the very next weekend with it. So there's that. And then I thought, well, would some fans be rude during the honoring of a president who had passed away? And I thought, yeah, probably in today's political climate, absolutely. Unfortunately, it shouldn't be like that on either side, because ultimately it is the president, but facts are facts. So interesting way of doing it. It would have been completely done differently in America, but it's also the Queen. We don't have a queen. We're a democracy over here. So this is what it is. So I'm curious, when do you think this Liverpool game's going to be rescheduled, Paul? Do you think it's going to happen before or after the World Cup?
I don't think they can before the World Cup with their European program and the League Cup stuck in there on our side as well. I haven't really delved into the potential windows, but I'm thinking it would be afterwards, in terms of if any free weekends open up into the second part of the season, and based on who continues in what cups, can possibly throw up a few potentially spare midweek windows to get the game in.
Yeah, it could get really interesting with, like you said, the League Cup, the FA Cup, Champions League. I mean, Liverpool played in every one of those games last year. So it is, I kind of am like you, it may be thrown in on a week, which might not be good for them, which is good. I didn't know. I mean, they got thumped in the Champions League game on Tuesday. And even with that, I was kind of hesitant as far as, well, it seems like this is a good time to be playing them. So I'm a little disappointed, but at the same time, they got thumped. And then the next week came out and won 9-0 over Bournemouth. So what do you think? Are you disappointed? You want to catch Liverpool now, or you think it's okay getting them a little bit later?
With a beast like that, I think really any type of top four team, it doesn't matter based on squad size. And I'm always hesitant to jump on a bandwagon of, it's a great time to play them, because that's never fallen in our favour whenever that's been mooted as a possible good time to play someone.
Bournemouth's a great example.
Yeah.
They just lost 9-0. We're going to do great. 0-0.
Yeah. So it at the end of the day, it's you play them home, you play them away. It doesn't really matter when it happens.
Yeah, I kind of think, though, Bruno Lage was probably okay with this game getting postponed, because he was looking at Liverpool and Man City, who Wolves play on Saturday back to back. Those are two very rough games, which very high potential. Wolves didn't get any points from that. He's already kind of feeling the hot seat. And even though it'd be rough to make the seat hotter after those two games, it is what it is with results. So
Results do that talking for sure.
Yeah.
I think even a loss on the weekend, if you play semi-decent, it wouldn't be as hot as 2 defeats on the bounce going into an international break for sure.
Mm-hmm. How thrilled do you think he was, though, that he got to work with the new players and get a whole another extra week of practice without having to worry about a game?
Yeah, I think he's that probably rubbing his hands together in terms of that time on the training ground. It could have been certainly what's been lacking in terms of that concentration of a nucleus of a squad without any of the disruption or the speculation of who may be coming in or coming out. And even during that time, you had those links potentially with Traore going to Galatasaray because the Turkish transfer window was still open when all of that was going on. So in theory, he has had his squad, hopefully as he likes it, to work with on a more concentrated basis.
Well, of course, there still was big news, and it was announced on Wolves Twitter finally that Diego Costa has signed with Wolves. He will be wearing the number 29 kit, and a stellar, again, the social media crew has just been stepping up, but he was announced holding Wolves. My first question, Paul, is where did they get the Wolves? Number 2, how did they convince him to hold the Wolves? And number 3, has this been like, have they been asking every player, like, hey, do you want to get introduced by Wolves? And they're like, are you fucking kidding me? No.
Okay, just to dampen any expectations in America, no, Wolves are not wild in the UK. So you can go over there and be walking the streets of Wolverhampton fully safe that this wild pack of wolves will not run down the street and attack you. There's far more troubling incidents that you could come running into with the general public as far as that goes. But I think it was something like a wolf sanctuary or something, maybe. I know I saw one of the Twitter posts on the media team that it was at very short notice that could we get these wolves within a day or something. So was there a sanctuary or were they act like wolf actors? Because in the film it looked like they were pretty aggressive and on the leash and chomping, yet they were posing for pictures afterwards and everything. So I don't know, but you're right, it was perfectly executed. And what I've really liked about all this Costa stuff is that suddenly it's turned into this 32-year-old journeyman who's potentially washed up into really big news and excitement. That I looked on the BBC football website this morning, like having my breakfast, and there he was. That was the main headline. So it's still a tremendous draw, even though we've had to scramble for this player that was out without a club, really. And the thought was, well, if he was worth his salt, then someone would have signed him by now. But still, I think they've really pulled it around to get some genuine excitement out of it. And a lot of people are buzzing, which I think I'm riding off the back of it. So I think it's great as far as the spin that they've put on it, for sure.
I love what he told the Athletic UK. And he said, I was scared to death. Those were wolves, not dogs. It was a cool experience, but not a very comfortable one. Man, I would have loved to have been in the room when the social media team was discussing it. Like, okay, we got to do something because this guy's, mean and tough. I got it. We'll get some live wolves. I mean, I've been in, Paul, both of us have been in marketing. I've pitched some really dumb things, really outlandish things. I don't think I ever came that close and I worked at a zoo. Like with crazy stuff that we could do. Not live wolves though. That was fun stuff. Oh, once again, bravo, the social media team with wolves, by far my favorite in professional sports. I feel like they're just top notch. I'm kind of curious. Nobody's really talked about it that much. Obviously, Costa's known as like this big bad guy. the other thing to talk about here is he's Spanish, plays for, Team Spain. Their arch rival is Portugal, who everybody on the squad is practically Portuguese. I wonder how that's going in the locker room. I mean, is there a lot of friendly trash talking there? What do you think?
I don't think he'll make a jot of difference. I think he'll be that type of character that's revered, regardless of nationality. So is he Brazilian by birth? So that's where he'll get the Portuguese from. But Spain through, I don't know how he qualified, but I gather that's how it'll all work out. So I doubt it's got any inclination in terms of locker room dynamics whatsoever.
Now, let's say he had signed with somebody else and we were going up, Wolves were going up against him. What would be how scared would you be facing him on a scale of 1 to 10? Based on what you just said, he's been out for a while. We don't really know what he presents, but he's still Diego Costa.
Exactly. It goes either way. It goes that it'll be a disaster in that he's washed up, and you can really tell that, again, if he been at a stage of his career where going back to Brazil kind of felt like that he was on a distinct downturn, that was where he's going to finish up his career. There's that element to it. But then you flip the other side of it, that he's coming back, and what he talks about is relighting that fire in his belly, and he's the type of guy that brings that passion, that will to win at all costs. It could be just for that final fling. It could be a masterstroke in a way. I don't think it's going to be one that he comes immediately into the team and he's suddenly a 10, 12 goal striker for the season at all. But could I see him come in, contribute 20 minutes off the bench? If I was on the opposite side, if I was a Wolves fan, seeing him come off the bench if the opponent were chasing a game or trying to hold on to a lead and potentially get one to kill a game off or to defend from the front, I'd be really worried. It'd be, for me, like the equivalent of a Mitrovic for Fulham, that he either turns us over or we were able to keep him pretty quiet. So I see him in that type of light and that type of profile as a player.
I would love to see, with 20 minutes left in the game, and Wolves either down a goal or tied, ideally tied, looking for the go-ahead goal, to bring in Costa and Adama at the same time and just watch how the other opposing fan base reacts to that, because those are two guys that really are like, uh-oh, what can we expect? They're either going to bomb completely probably at the same time, or you could seriously think they could go out there and score 2 goals in that 20 minutes. I don't know what to expect. So I'm kind of excited about that. I mean, those are 2 very wild card players. Still am bummed out Special K was hurt, but I feel like they answered it swiftly, and this was a solid move, I think, especially for a free with the transfer window closed. This is probably the best move they could have made, I would think.
I think it's a no-lose one. Either we're not committed for any extended period of time. If it comes off and fills the gap, then they've pulled a masterstroke, really. If it doesn't work, then what have we really lost? So I don't think they're really in a position that they're going to suffer from it.
Do you think he will he'll start anytime soon, or is it just strictly he's going to be coming off the bench?
I think what he said in his initial interview today, that was on the main club website, that he probably feels himself that he's a way away from fitness. So I can see him on the bench and probably eased into it. That 20 minutes at a time, I think could be the norm for possibly till well after the international break, that we're probably 4 to 6 weeks away from maybe seeing him start. And even then starting, we may get him for 60, 70 minutes. I don't think we're going to have a 90-minute a week player week in, week out.
Yeah, it's a great point about the World Cup window, because I'm sure Raul's going to be pretty gassed, and Costa could be somebody that comes on and does pretty well. But it's going to be very interesting. I think a lot of that's going to come down to which teams make it the furthest, and if any of these guys get E&E type of break. I hate the World Cup in November and December. Stupid cutter. Can he teach Wolves to score? I mean, we're going to be talking with our friend Crunk Chocolate and about Erling Haaland, how he just, will fire off all the time. And that's what I think of when I think of Costa as well. Do you think he can kind of teach these young Wolves guys that are trying to make the perfect pass or look for the perfect shot that, hey, just shoot and make the keeper work for it?
Possibly. I think he's got that, what we might not have got in terms of that killer instinct, in that that's what he's built for, that he's an out and out goal scorer. His record for Chelsea, just look back at it, was fantastic. So you don't lose all of that instinct or awareness around the box. I think if he can get in those types of positions and the service is there, then more often than not, if it falls to him, he's going to be that type of player that can put it away, even at an age into his early 30s. So hopefully, and I do hope that it sets an example, that it doesn't have to be that perfectly crafted goal. Put it in the right spot, right place, right time. That's the type of guy that can get in there and even just cause a scruffy goal, or come in and get his head on the end of a cross and power a header in. That doesn't seem that we've had that real go-getter in terms of profile of a striker to do that. So we can look at it and be excited about it, I'm sure.
And I mean, there's guys that are older that are performing at super high level. I mean, look at Benzema. So
yeah,
I mean, it's not unheard of. Hopefully he's got that fire. I mean, I'd hate to, somebody with that player profile who uses strength more than anything, you'd think that age is a little bit better. So I'm excited about this. I just hope, we see him in more than just, oh, it's the last 5 minutes of a game, let's throw him out there. And helping us to preview Saturday's early matchup from Shades of Blue podcast, Mr. Crunk Chocolate. How's it going?
Hello. Thank you for having me, gentlemen. Hello, Wolves fans, listeners, being very angry right now. Like, why do we have a City fan in my ears right now? I mean, well, white flag, peace.
Now, we were on your podcast over the summer. That had to be one of the highest rated episodes, correct?
Yeah, of course. It was the highest rated. Like, I've been trying. Have you not got my emails? I've been trying to get a hold of you guys. I need you guys back on.
You have to talk to my agent.
But what I will say is, all of those represent episodes that I had where people, anyway, but they all did great. All the numbers, like, seriously, I was very apprehensive. I will say the least listened to was the Arsenal. and sorry, Poppy Pack, but I think, just people didn't care. I mean, people listened, but the number was a lot less for Arsenal. So do one Arsenal.
Now, Crunk Chocolate, you're on the East Coast, is that right?
Actually, I'm smack dab in the United States. I'm in Iowa.
Okay. So your Central Time, which is going to be it's starting at 6:30 a.m. Central. Apologize to all of our friends over there on the West Coast, where it's going to be a 4:30 game.
Two of my podcasters, Tom Baum and Charlie. Oh, and Danielle. They're all in West Coast or Mountain Time. So yeah, they have very early mornings.
Well, first off, you said that you were coming to Houston to come to the Man City Club America game down here in Houston, which turned out to be, what was it, 2-1? Exciting game. So what do you think of Houston?
It was great. I mean, from my time going to bigger, so the way that it is very spaced out everything. So that was, but I was expecting to do the driving, but it was an amazing time. I went all over the place. The food was great. I went to multiple taco trucks and ate tacos. I went to this really cool rodeo burger joint. Man, I wish I could remember what the name of it was, but it was right by the Pitch 21 where the city pre-party was. But my experience was insane. I really loved Houston. I would go back. I grew up in Arkansas, actually, so I'm used to the heat. So that wasn't really something bad. But the coffee was great. The food was great. The people were nice.
Did many City fans from the UK make the trip as part of a summer vacation, or what was the split amongst the fan base? Were there Americans or did Brits travel? Or
I mean, there were some Brits there, but for the most part, no, it was a lot of Americans. Like but it was huge. They were everywhere. Anywhere I went, there was a Man City fan either walking around or bouncing around. Like I saw a City shirt everywhere. It was really cool.
Yeah, the Mexican clubs, especially the really big ones like Club America, obviously draw well down here. So
I'm sure that was
rambunctious crowd they usually are.
The drumming the entire match, and like they have a band, and they were great. They were nice. There were a lot of Club America fans around us, and we all politely jeered each other's teams, and it was nice. Yeah, it's because overall it's a friendly, so we're not gonna get too serious. Well, the fans won't. The players kind of were wilding. They were going after Jack Grealish very heavy in that match, and I almost lost my voice screaming at Club America about the ref not calling any of that stuff. Sorry, it was a friendly. I need to move on. I enjoyed myself in Houston. Thank you.
Okay, on to this weekend then. So one name, Erling Haaland. What is it like just playing with that cheat code?
It's great to see, because really City's big problem was we just need a guy to knock it in, and we got the guy to knock it in. So what has just been amazing is watching the players really just be like, fuck it, Haaland's going to be there. Like specifically Kevin, like we all know, well, not we all know, but there was this really nice study done on him about how he absorbs the space. So he takes longer looks to take more things in. So, but he will really just get one touch to make a couple dribbles, won't even look at the goal when he kicks it, because he basically knows Haaland's going to be there. And there have been multiple goals where he just kicks it and Haaland's either out of the screen, or at the moment you're like, what's going to happen? And all of a sudden his giant body comes flying out of nowhere to just like tap it in to the goal. It's been brilliant watching him play. He's holding up the play well. He's handling the ball very well. He's all the things that people kind of were getting on him about, he's doing. And I feel like Pep's kind of making him do that to almost prove a point. And they look great now, but what I would say is they are very rusty, being able to watch it. So I'm just looking forward to seeing them play better as a team. So to think that they could get better, I know is kind of like a crazy thing to be saying, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Haaland and De Bruyne are two of my favorite non-Wolves players to watch, and to see them on the same team, it's just incredible. With Wolves, it seems like our guys, they take time once they get in the box. They're looking for the perfect. And Haaland, just anytime he's touching the ball, he's shooting it. It's like this is what every striker should be like. Just screw it. Just make the keeper work. Now you guys have been free scoring this season, but there still has been a few draws in there, namely that interesting Newcastle game. Do these results kind of give you any indication as how you maybe got at this Saturday?
So what I will say is a draw is possible, and we are susceptible on the counter, but a lot of the goals that are given, like the one against Aston Villa, that was just a great shot. Yes, it was a counter attack and everything, but overall, the situation felt comfortable. Like City do a lot of bend don't break, but yeah, that was Leon Bailey. I believe that's who it was. Just like a rocket past Ederson. So sometimes you can't stop them ball. The team, again, I said the team is still trying to figure out chemistry where people are. Pep is doing a lot of changing on the wings. We have Foden playing on the right. And I think the reason for that, well, I guess we're going to talk about players and positions later. So I guess I don't want to dig too deep in that. But
spoiler alert.
Yeah, right. Sorry. But I do. I just think it's going to happen. I could still one of my pod mates. I talk in a team. one of our pod mates, Tom Baum. I made everyone give a hot take, and his hot take is Man City are the Invincibles, and currently they still are. And I think we could just have draws. We lost 3 times last year, I believe, 3 times. So you just take out those 3 wins and make 2 a draw and 1 a win. And so technically them being in the Invincibles isn't that far-fetched of an idea, especially watching how the other teams in the traditional top 6 are faring.
You heard it here. Crunk Chocolate says Man City definitely going undefeated this year.
We out here. Hey, they don't call me Crunk Chocolate for no reason. I'm out here. Bring that energy.
So you touched on it briefly. Lineup wise, you guys have a game this week, Champions League on Wednesday, then Saturday is an early kickoff. So do you think you're expecting any type of rotation, or specifically players coming in and out just for the league game in particular?
So the funny thing about a Pep team, especially now in 2022, is you can never really guess. I mean, you can off of previous matches. That always helps. But the thing is, they didn't play on Saturday. So that's rest. So what Pep will do, who he will rest, I think he's going to take the Champions League match very seriously. And depending on who plays on Wednesday, that kind of explains who's going to play on Saturday. Pep has said Haaland. He specifically said he's young. He can play. So I don't think he's worried about overplaying him. Alvarez is kind of gotten in and out. So I think he might play in the Champions League. But I do think Pep wants to keep pushing the team in the Premier League. So I think by the time we get to you guys, I think the starting 11 against Wolves will be stronger than the starting 11 that play on Wednesday in the Champions League.
Interesting. That's not what I wanted to hear.
Sorry.
I want to hear, everybody's going Champions League, and of course, you guys have backups that I would start on most of the team. So this
good deal. Thanks, man. We really appreciate you making the time to join us.
Yeah, anytime. Appreciate you guys having me on.
Well, thank you to Crunk Chocolate from Shades of Blue podcast, Man City. Well, Paul, last time Wolves faced Man City, it did not go well. It went well for Kevin De Bruyne, but not so well for Wolves. How do we avoid that disaster again, considering all they've done is gotten better since that game?
Well, this relays somewhat into a no stupid question, Josh. So that segment of the show, powered by the listener, to ask us anything that you like about the team, club, city, you name it, legacy fan, recent bandwagoner. You can ask away in a total judgment-free zone on Twitter, Facebook, or by emailing hello@wholelotofwolves.com. And it was Steve Evans on Twitter who says, with the extra time off, does Bruno tweak the formation and or tactics to account for Haaland, or does he stick with his 4-3-3? So I think he's gonna go for it and just stick. I think that I think it would be a not a backward step to revert back towards a 5, but I just don't think what it would accomplish when you're competing against that Galacticova team that we were a 5 at the back last year, and that didn't make a jot of difference at Molineux. So is that going to change anything now? I don't really think. And if I was in the form of Collins and Kilman as a partnership either, I wouldn't be wanting to rock the boat too much. And that's what they're there for. Just put them up against him and let's see where we are. We're going to lose, probably. Is it going to be as embarrassing as it was last season? Potentially. But unless we try, we're never going to find out. So I don't think we're going to be as gung-ho as any type of 4-2-3, 4-2-3-1. But I could see a 4-3-3, and in fact, I could see a surprise debut for Traore actually in the centre of the midfield.
That was going to be my next question. Was Boubacar Traore, if he gets in there? Yeah, it'd be interesting, especially if they feel he's physical enough. He's had time to kind of get a little involved in the system, and Dendonker's gone. But man, it would still be tough to sit down Matheus, Neves, or Moutinho going up against Fancy. So I don't know. I still think he might come up.
Look at Matheus. So he's probably licking his lips coming up against Pep to say, "How do you like me now?" You know, if you were talking me up that last year or whenever it was. Let's see what I'm like again up close and personal. But potentially, I could see with that 4-3-3, where our undoing was at Molineux last year was that it was De Bruyne between the defense and the midfield, and he just had that wide open space. Now, if Neves does have that more defensive remit, that he's just sit back behind those two and cover that ground going from side to side, maybe that cuts off a channel that City could exploit, and then we've got that option that if he recovers the ball and can knock a ball over the top, all of a sudden we're in play for that counter attack. So maybe that's the thinking somewhat, that there is some opportunity potentially.
Yeah, it's kind of like that Cody role where you're sitting in the middle, you're just further up in the midfield, but still kind of guarding that middle to make sure, Kilman and Collins don't get split on a creative run. I'm going to be excited to see Kilman and Collins versus Haaland just because he's a physical guy. They're physical guys. I want to see how they handle that. So far they've been up to a lot of good challenges. Ideally, that would continue. So that'll be fun to watch. Here's a hot take for you, Paul. I don't want to see Aitner starting this game. And the reason being, he's still a young kid. And I feel like with the Man City interest, it felt like when there was interest in him in the transfer market, that's when he kind of started to play bad. I feel like he'd try and force things a little bit too much, trying to impress Man City in this game. So I would actually put him on the bench and start Johnny on that left side. What do you think of that?
Yeah, regardless of potential interest, I think we need to be as solid as possible if it is that 4. And it makes more sense just to put Johnny in there and tell him that that's the remit that he's got, is that defensive one first. And then you've got Semedo coming in on the opposite side that can offer a little bit of both, be an attacking outlet, but also you can rely on him defensively also. I think my one kicker with all of that, and we won't really know until an hour before kickoff, will be their lineup and the likes of Foden, or that player that they can play in a free role that can cause some damage. So is there going to be one of those players that take up a position where either Johnny or Semedo effectively has to kind of man mark him and try and keep him out of the game that way? Would I be willing to risk out Nura with that? I don't know. Like last season, I wouldn't have said that starting against Liverpool at home was the right move, but he had a great game defensively in that. So I don't think it's a total write-off for it, but I would be more willing to back the guys who had the shirt last game, and keeping it based on that performance and the clean sheet off of Southampton.
I worry just because I feel like the tendency's been that he kind of lets outside influences get to him a little bit. So that's my hesitation there. We talked about last episode whether or not Neto should be starting, a guaranteed starter. Probably with 2 weeks, though, you figure he's going to start this week on that right side with Guedes on the left?
I think we've got to fit in Podence.
Yeah.
Based on the last game. So personally, I'd still be one to let Neto come off the bench, have Podence start, have Guedes start, maybe have Podence more inside in a closer to a 10 role, and have Guedes potentially in a 2 up top. But then, do we know about Jimenez yet? How's he going to be? I've not seen him in any training pics. I haven't been through them diligently when they get posted, but what's his status like based on a tight calf or a fatigue? I think the central striker is going to have a big bearing on this lineup as well.
How about this scenario? Wolves are tied, 20 minutes to go. You do a full line change in the front and bring on Neto, Adama, Costa.
That's what you're talking about in terms of a bench that we've never had. But wouldn't it be nice for a Wolves fairy story to actually come true? Mm-hmm. So let's go for it. That'll be my prediction.
I will say Adama always plays well against Man City, so I would be okay with maybe him and Podence starting. I don't know. We'll see. I think that's one area where Wolves are going to try and take advantages on the outside. Obviously, with Ruben Diaz in the center, it's kind of tough to penetrate them. And then you have Ederson in goal. So, man, I just hope it's a close game after what we had the last time when I thought it would be a close game and it was just a destruction on a lot of levels. Okay, Paul, well, let's talk predictions then. Obviously, we have to wipe out my 1-0 Liverpool, your 0-0 draw, and Alex's 1-1 draw of the Liverpool game. So, as the standings currently stand, Paul, you're in last with 4. I have 7. And then Alex and our guests are tied for first with 8. But there's no guest and there's no Alex. So, time for us to catch up some points here, Paul. So, what's your prediction for the game?
I'm going for that fairy tale, but I just can't predict a win against Man City. So I'm thinking we'll concede. It'll be 1-0 and Costa will come on and it'll get to about the 82nd minute and we'll get that equaliser and still need to hang on. So a 1-1 draw for me.
Look at you. Okay. I hate to do it. 3-1 Man City. Man, I just think I think
It's going either
Haaland's-
way.
Yeah,
You
I
know,
think Haaland's gonna just unleash hell on Dortmund on Tuesday, and that's gonna kind of carry over. And
the kicker for all of this is we are total dog shit on these early morning kickoffs as well.
I
So
know that's playing into it as well. There's just a lot of things not going. I mean,
yeah, 6:30 I'm not a fan of anyway, and they've never given me a reason to get up and enjoy it since goodness knows when. And it's not really that much better at 8 o'clock on a Sunday either. So get
no.
your shit together, Wolves, and do something good first thing in the morning.
That would be nice. I would like to not be trying to get to bed at the 70th minute because Wolves are down 4-0 again. No, that's not ideal. Are there any more no stupid questions this week, Paul?
There is. So a reminder, everyone, that you get in touch and you can ask away with any question that you'd like. And we had 2 more come in. This one was a good one from Wolfman Jeff on Twitter. He's at Soccer in South. And he says, does signing Costa extend or shorten Bruno's grace period? Does he have more time to get them to gel with these new signings? Or is the pressure to win on more with such talented players now at his disposal? So I think we've got till the international break for the World Cup. I think if they do anything, it's pretty not pointless, but it would be more opportune moment that you have got that extended break to cut a cord and still with a transfer window to come back to. If that new coach comes in and says, in addition, I need X, Y, and Z during the transfer window to stay up, a little like what Newcastle did last year, in that effectively they saved their season by a managerial change and some really good acquisitions in that winter transfer window that effectively helped see him through the summer as well. So that's the only time I can really see him pulling the trigger as far as that goes.
Yeah, I don't think Costa signing does anything to his grace period. I mean, I do think he did catch a little favorable break, not having to worry about a potential loss against Liverpool, getting a whole nother extra week to get the new guys caught up. I think it's going to depend how the results look. If there's any of these, maybe not necessarily Man City, but if there's one of these matchups coming up, for instance, Chelsea with, their change, or Palace, and Wolves look really bad and lose one of those 3-0 or something, then you could legitimately see them going, okay, maybe now it's panic time, because Fosun has definitely invested enough money. They have invested the money that they cannot afford now to drop down under any circumstances. Like, that would be just absolutely crippling. I mean, none of these guys are gonna stay for a championship team. I mean, I guess they'd make a lot of money and try and reinvest it, but I think it depends on, if there is losses, how bad they look in the losses. Ideally, I'm with you. International break, I think, is a good time to make the decision if they're going to. And hopefully they can get on a roll here. Maybe it starts Saturday. Maybe it starts the next week. I don't know.
Next up, Wolves Women's Pod on Twitter wants to know if we're aware that you can now follow Wolves Women on the Wolves 24/7 radio with live commentary of the games via the app or website, which we very much are, and we'll be having our own regular segment on Wolves Women at regular stages of the season, thanks to our very knowledgeable friend Danny of Baltimore Wolves. So looking forward to that next one.
Very exciting.
And that makes it a wrap for next week. So we will be back same time, same place with a full analysis of the Man City game, and then getting very excited because after the international break, we'll be eagerly awaiting TexFest, with many of you traveling to Houston from across the country for the West Ham game. So if you've yet to add your RSVP on www.houstonwolves.com, then do so quickly and you can see the full itinerary of everything we've got planned over the course of that weekend, and the important announcement of where the venue itself for watching the game on the Saturday, that's also imminent, so keep your eyes peeled for that. In the meantime, to every single one of you out there, especially Diego Costa, up the mighty Wolves.
Whole Lotta Wolves is self-funded, so if you're interested in sponsorship opportunities as a way to reach a niche audience, email hello@wholelottofwolves.com for our sponsor packages. Just want to make a contribution as a listener who enjoys the show? Then head to buymeacoffee.com/WLWpod. That's buymeacoffee.com/WLWpod. We greatly appreciate any contribution. Up the Wolves.